Most people think walking after dinner only helps because it burns a few extra calories. But that's not the most important thing happening in your body. Because the moment you start walking after a meal, your body begins changing how it handles sugar, energy, and digestion in real time. And in the next few hours, that short walk may influence far more than most people realize. In this video, we're going to walk through exactly what happens inside your body when you take a walk after dinner. From the first few minutes after you start moving, to the window when blood sugar begins to rise, to what happens in the hours as your body processes that meal. Some of these changes are surprisingly powerful. Research shows that even a short walk after eating can reduce the size of the post-meal blood sugar spike by around 10 to 20% in some studies, compared with staying seated. But blood sugar is only part of the story, because later in the evening, this same habit may also influence digestion, energy levels, and even how your body prepares for sleep. So let's start with the first stage, the moment your body realizes you've just eaten. Right after dinner, digestion begins moving quickly. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, which enters the bloodstream. That's why blood sugar naturally rises after a meal. Normally, insulin moves that glucose into cells. But when you start walking, your muscles begin pulling glucose directly from the bloodstream to use as fuel. Think of it like deliveries arriving at a warehouse. If you're sitting still, there are only a few loading docks available. But when you begin walking, it's as if extra docks suddenly open. Your body now has more places to send incoming energy. Research shows that light activity after eating can reduce the rise in post-meal blood sugar compared with remaining sedentary. But the timing of that movement matters, because about 30 to 60 minutes after eating, the body enters another important stage. 30 to 60 minutes after dinner, digestion is in full motion. Glucose from the meal continues entering the bloodstream, and blood sugar is approaching its peak. Normally, insulin handles most of this work, but when you walk, contracting muscles absorb glucose directly for fuel. Think of it like opening extra doors in a crowded building. Movement gives glucose another way to enter cells. This is one reason walking after meals can reduce the size of the blood sugar spike. And dinner may be the meal where this matters most. Research on circadian rhythms shows the body often has lower glucose tolerance in the evening, so the same meal can produce a higher blood sugar response than in the morning. From a biological perspective, this makes sense. For most of human history, eating and movement happened together. Our ancestors rarely finished a meal and then sat still for hours. So when you walk after dinner today, you may simply be working with the way the body evolved to handle energy. But the biggest metabolic changes show up a little later. 1 to 3 hours after a meal is when blood sugar usually reaches its highest point. This is known as the post-meal glucose response. And this is where walking after dinner shows its clearest measurable effect. Studies show people who walk after meals often experience smaller rises in blood sugar compared with those who remain sedentary. Think of it like a wave. Eating creates a natural rise in blood sugar. Walking doesn't stop the wave completely, but it can make the wave smaller and smoother. This means the body doesn't have to work as hard to bring blood sugar back down. Walking after dinner isn't really about burning off the meal. The calories burned during a short walk are modest. What matters more is how your body processes energy during those first few hours after eating. And that process also involves digestion. After the initial glucose rise begins to settle, the body starts distributing energy from the meal. Some nutrients are used immediately, while others may be stored. When you walk, active muscles continue drawing glucose from the bloodstream. This means more of the meal's energy is used right away rather than stored. Movement essentially spreads that energy across muscle cells instead of concentrating it in the bloodstream. For most of human history, meals were rarely followed by complete stillness. People continued moving after eating, walking, gathering, working. So the body likely evolved to handle food while movement was still happening. But metabolism isn't the only system responding, because digestion is still underway. Several hours after dinner, digestion continues. The stomach and intestines are still breaking down food and moving nutrients through the digestive tract. Posture can actually influence this process. Medical guidance often recommends remaining upright after eating, because lying down too soon may increase the risk of acid reflux. Experts commonly suggest waiting 2 to 3 hours after eating before lying down. Walking after dinner naturally helps maintain that upright position. Gentle movement doesn't dramatically speed digestion, but it may help the process feel more comfortable. This may explain why many people report feeling less heavy or sluggish when they take a short walk after eating. But digestion isn't the only system responding. As the evening continues, the body also begins preparing for sleep. As night approaches, the body gradually shifts toward recovery. Hormones involved in sleep regulation adjust, body temperature drops slightly, and the nervous system begins transitioning toward rest. Light physical activity earlier in the evening may support this process. Regular physical activity is associated with better sleep quality and healthier sleep patterns. A short evening walk fits naturally into this rhythm. Instead of moving directly from eating into complete stillness, the body transitions gradually from activity toward rest. And when this habit becomes part of a nightly routine, the effects accumulate over time. Walking after dinner might seem like a small habit, but over time, those small moments of movement can add up to something much more meaningful. Every time you eat, your body goes through a metabolic challenge, breaking down nutrients, regulating blood sugar, and distributing energy throughout the body. When you walk after a meal, your muscles help use some of that incoming glucose right away. This reduces the size of the post-meal spike and helps the body process energy more smoothly. Repeated over time, that pattern can support better blood sugar control and improved metabolic health. Researchers pay close attention to this period after meals because frequent large glucose spikes are linked to problems like insulin resistance and increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Walking after dinner doesn't eliminate those spikes entirely, but it may help keep them smaller and easier for the body to manage. And that simple shift, repeated day after day, can contribute to better long-term metabolic balance. In other words, that short walk isn't just movement. It's helping the body handle one of the most important biological processes of the day, how it responds to food. For most people, a short walk after dinner is safe and beneficial, but individual responses can vary. People managing diabetes or blood sugar disorders may need to monitor how their body reacts to exercise after meals. Physical activity helps muscles use glucose for energy, which can lower blood sugar levels. For individuals using insulin or certain medications, activity can sometimes cause levels to drop more than expected. Medical guidance notes that exercise can continue influencing blood glucose for several hours afterward. Another important point is that walking after dinner is not a way to cancel out a meal. A short walk burns relatively few calories. The real benefit comes from helping the body manage the natural metabolic response that follows eating. And when you zoom out, that perspective reveals something deeper about how the human body was designed to function. When you step back and look at the bigger picture, walking after dinner isn't really about a single health trick. It's about understanding how the human body was designed to function. For most of human history, eating and movement happened together. Our ancestors rarely finished a meal and then remained completely still for the rest of the evening. Daily life naturally involved continued activity, walking, gathering, preparing food, or traveling. In other words, the body evolved in an environment where food and movement were closely connected. So when you take a short walk after dinner today, you may simply be reconnecting with a rhythm the human body evolved to expect. Instead of allowing energy to sit unused in the bloodstream, movement helps the body process that energy the way it was originally designed to. And that's why such a simple habit can have meaningful effects over time, because sometimes the most powerful health habits aren't complicated at all. They're the ones that quietly align with how the body naturally works. And a short walk after dinner may be one of the simplest examples of that. So if you've tried walking after dinner, what did you notice? Let us know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you're subscribed to the Wellness Method. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.